LPG reforms, India initially embraced a mixed economy and post-independent integrating capitalism, socialism. 1991 economical crisis marked by extent debt challenges, declining foreign reserve, and the government initiated LPG reforms, redirecting towards a new development. In 20th century, production was mostly national, with global trade centered on raw material, food, finished good, and colonial era Indian primarily exported raw material and imported finished good. Situations government fund were generated through the tax, public sector enterprises, borrowings, and expenditure. Economical disparity. So there was a unemployment, poverty, and population issues, failing general sufficient revenue. It was compounded by the inadequate internal generation and reliance on non-immediate returns, leading to deficit as a public sector undertaking. Income fell short by escalating this, so there was a deficit as a PSU. Now later 1980 widening up gap India government revenue and expenditure, unsustainable borrowings, uncontrolled consumption and exchange essential good, and a precarious depletion of foreign exchange reserve due to imbalance, crisis of management and international assistance. Exchange reserve prompt India 6 to 7 billion loan from the World Bank and IMF. Contingent as economical liberalization, reduced government intervention and trade restriction and abolishment. So that was the problem. New economical policy, that was complying with the international agencies like new economical policy, stabilizing measures, short term measures, and control the inflation discrepancy, maintaining adequate foreign exchange, structural reform like economy efficiency, international competition, eliminating the rigidities, and core themes like liberalization, direct reforms, privatization path to the reforms, and globalization ultimate aim to the reforms. So liberalizations in 1991, that was remove the government restriction granting business freedom. So comprehensive impact was to industrial, financial, taxation, and trade sector. In 91 included industrial licensing, limited private sector, now small scale industry, reservation and control on the price and distribution. Post 91 industrial licensing was abolished by most of the category for alcohol, and this de-reservation of goods previously restricted small scale, now introduction of the market determined prices. Financial sector reforms in 91, the regulation by RBI covering the commercial banks, investment bank, stock exchange, and the foreign exchange market. Transitional RBI role from regulator to the facilitator, allowing the financial sector autonomy, decision making, facilitate establishing a private sector bank with the increase the foreign investment limit 74%. Bank meeting certain conditions could establish the branches and rationalizing network without RBI approval, while some managerial aspect was there. Foreign institution like merchant bank, mutual fund invest in India's financial market. Tax reform, that was focused modifying the government taxation and public expenditure policies with a stand reduction in the income and corporate taxes, with a stand and continuous reduction in Indian income tax and corporate tax, aim at the promoting saving, voluntary income disclosure and compliance. Indirect tax reform effort made to reform indirect taxes, and the goal was to establish a common national market for goods and commodity. So efforts was eliminate in the establishment of unified indirect tax system, that was goods and service tax in 2016. Effective from this aim at simplifying the tax procedures. 91 balance of payment crisis was there, so immediate devaluation of the rupee to address the crisis, boosting the foreign exchange inflow. Exchange rate reform, that was initiated market determined exchange rate 91 based on the foreign exchange demand and supply, reducing common control over the rupee value, aim at the enhancing the international competitive, attracting foreign investment and technology. dismantling pre-reform policy, abolishing high tariffs and tight control over the imports that hindered the manufacturing sector, abolish import licensing, reform measures that was hazardous and enormous sensitive industry, remove the quantitative restriction on the import and exports and reduce the tariff rates, boost the competitive and India goods in international market, foster efficiency and modern technology. Meaning privatization denotes the transfer from government ownership or the management to private sector, where the government relinquishing ownership and management of public sector by the outright sale, so that disinvestment is a strategic process through which government reduce ownership stake in public sector by selling share to either strategic or financial buyer. This can be achieved through the sale of share on the stock exchange, directly selling share in the interest buyer. Minority in the government maintain a majority stake in the company, typically greater than 51%. Majority disinvestment company of the company is transferred to the acquiring entity, but the government retains some stake. Complete privatization. The entire 100% control of the company transferred to the buyer, resulting complete privatization. Disinvestment process in India. Department of Investment and Public Asset Management (DIPAM) under the Ministry of Finance is oversee the disinvestment that was by the DIPAM. So disinvestment is seen by this National Investment Fund to channelizing the process of disinvestments under public sector undertaking. Government established National Investment Fund in the 2005. So National Investment Fund that was in 2005, facilitating foreign direct investment that was contributing to economical growth, enhancing the efficiency through the managerial autonomy. Government aim to boost the efficiency of PSU. This autonomy is manifested through the conferment special status Maharatna, Navratna, certain empowering them for greater marginalized. The government drawing the inspiration from the Navratna to the nine jewels and public sector undertaking Maharatna. Operation autonomy and performance enhancement were endowed with the increase the managerial autonomy, enhance the autonomy, operational financial management realm, design the public sector enterprises Maharatna Indian Oil Corporation Limited, that was Steel Authority, Navratna Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Maharatna Mahanagar Telecom, and Mini Ratna, that was Bharat Sanchar Nigam Airport Authority. Self-reliance historical context was like self-reliance inception of many profitable dates back to the 1950, aiming public policy emphasis self-reliance. These enterprises were established with a dual aim, infra and direct employment. So convert the status, contribute to the improve the performance of privatization through disinvestment, and the resolve the these enterprises in public sector. Now there is a facilitate their expansion into global market and empower them independently, raise resources from the financial market. Trade barriers, attacks on the on import exemplify a trade barrier impacting cost and qualities. So trade barriers were employed by the government to regulate the foreign trade and decide the type and quality of the goods imported. Globalization is a broadly exercised as an integration of the national economy, global, faster, greater independence and integration. So, Cyrilla tragedy. In line with the LPG, the government introduced a reform in the power sector. Consequences of the reform, the tariff hike. The most notable outcome was significant India power tariff. Effect of the power loom industries and power high tariff severely impacted this industry, with the wage tied to production power cuts and directly affected the power loom workers. So the combination of the increasing tariff and the power supply led to financial crisis. India economy during the reform. The reform process of India complete the 3 decades. As assessment of the Indian economy revealed the mixed scenario. Growth primarily argued the gross domestic product. So 91 में India saw the substantial GDP growth 5.6%, then 8.2% during 2007 in the services sector. The agriculture sector saw decline while the industrial sector show fluctuations. Despite growth rate across the was 2012 and 15 that was 9.8%, the reform era is a significant increase of foreign direct FDI and foreign institutional investment rising 100 millions to 30 billion. Foreign exchange reserve surged them about 6 billion to 413 billion, making India one of the largest foreign exchange reserve. India emerged a successful exporter of the parts of pharmaceutical and IT. Conclusion: India is a shift from a mixed economy to globalization has both opportunities and challenges. Key reform aimed at attracting foreign investment, integrating India with the global economy, and while this was certain sector like IT को benefit हुआ, agriculture, small production, and the chapter underlining the need of the balanced approach, fair globalization, and that fostering the inclusive growth. So that was about the LPG reforms.